and welcome to another brand new, interesting episode of Women of Community Banking podcast. I have today Karen with me. Hi, Karen. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure, Karen. So we are glad that you're spending this time with us. Thank you for that. I'll quickly introduce who Karen is. I think she does not need an introduction, but still, let me do that honor for her. So Karen is the Chief Retail Officer of Lake Michigan Credit Union based out of Tampa, Florida. Illustrious career, right? So we connected on multiple facets. One of them is work. The other bunch of things that we'll talk about apart from work, right? So she's again the chief retail officer of LMCU in the credit union ecosystem for almost 12 and a half years out there in Tampa earlier with Suncoast, now with LMCU leading the retail strategy, retail delivery. Her role right now is focused on membership growth, managing retail delivery, loyalty, etc. It's a laundry list, right? So let's not talk about that. It's a long one. One of the very interesting things about Karen is she has very deep interest on making kids successful, right? She loves kids. One of the side stories, I mean, she's one of the trailblazers, I would say, who believes in adoption very much like me, right? So she's so glad that she adopted a daughter years back from Guatemala, and she just wants to share her story to the entire world, right? So that's something very unique I found about her. And again, Karen, thank you, appreciate you joining us today. Thank you for that. I hope I was able to do some justice to the introduction.
You were. Thank you so much. You honored me completely in the introduction. So, yes, I am a very proud LMCU team member. Joined recently with LMCU. LMCU is Lake Michigan Credit Union based out of Michigan, with a largest credit union in Michigan, and then our other presence is in Florida. So I'm very honored and humbled to lead Florida. And as you mentioned, yes, I'm extremely passionate about kids. They are our future. And so one of my own things in my journey was the best day of my life, which was adopting my daughter, Isa, from Guatemala, and just what a privilege that is. Every moment, every day, moms and parents and dads, as we are raising children to be that next generation of incredible humans to make a difference in this world, having to be a part or getting to be a part of that and having my family start through adoption, just incredible. It's an incredible pleasure and honor.
Absolutely, Karen. We would love to share your journey in the podcast, right? That's what the podcast is meant for sharing unique journeys. So first question, Karen, I almost ask this to everyone. I'll ask the same thing to you. Start with what keeps you going?
So, what keeps me going? I am obsessed, absolutely obsessed, and what fills my cup, energizes me, is there is a quote that says, lighting someone else's candle doesn't diminish your own. And I am obsessed with that quote, and I start with it every single day. What keeps me going is lighting other folks' candles and all of us doing that together. And I say light them on fire. So as we are out there and helping others and making a difference, I absolutely believe, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit more, but leadership is absolutely about aligning vision and strategy, setting vision and strategy, no question. Leaders need to set that vision, set the strategy, and then execute on that strategy. And that absolutely is the textbook definition, is the definition I believe in. But I think the true essence of leadership, and I have felt this strongly, and this keeps me going, is that leadership to me is really in the small moments. Leadership is in the day-to-day, those small micro moments in a hallway, being a mentor, lighting someone else's candle, sometimes when you don't even know it, but it is in every interaction, everything you do throughout the day. I had one of my tellers one time tell me that her inspiration in life, at the credit union, but also in life, was that every person she met, she wanted to leave them better and happier than when she met them. And I thought, what a glorious way, what a beautiful thing to live by. So I've tried to incorporate that and her words of wisdom into my leadership, into my life, into my personal life. And so that absolutely energizes me, keeps me on absolute fire to make any difference, small, large, but to have that inspiration to keep going.
Absolutely, that's very inspiring, right? Let's now talk about Karen, your journey. So, what what does your journey look like? I mean, you started from a bank, then moved to a credit union, plus with so many eventful events in your personal life. So, we would love to more more about your journey.
So thank you very much. So yes, I started in Marietta, Georgia, working for community and commercial banks. Absolutely loved it. My very first foray into my career field, I actually have a degree and a graduate degree in social work from the University of Georgia. When you're asked as a child, what would you like to do when you grow up? Mine was not very specific. Mine was, I want to make a difference and I want to help others. So I started very much in social work. I was, as a lot of young folks do, I was working part-time at night to supplement my work as a social worker during the day. And so I was waiting tables. And so I was very, very fortunate to wait on the bank manager from a community bank who would say to me every night as I served her dinner and her meal, Karen, you need to come talk to us at the bank. And I'd say, Miss Polly, my degree's in social work. I'm determined, I'm committed, I'm on fire for helping other people. And she'd say, Karen, one of the things other than health that is the most stressful and you could make such a difference is people's finances. It's helping them get on that path to make their financial dreams come true, which really translates into their dreams. Help their families, help them build a legacy of financial literacy, of financial education, to pay it forward to their children, to make sure that they're setting them up for success. And so those two things combined, I traveled around the world, very, very fortunate to have lived in many foreign countries and really getting to experience what helping, what service, what servant leadership looks like across the globe. And so when I was fortunate to come in 2012 to Tampa and start working for credit unions, I then found the credit union movement. And what I always say is commercial banks, we were absolutely doing good things by good people for good customers. The credit union movement just takes it one step further. It says, all right, our organizational mission, our purpose is to change people's lives. We're going to make every decision through the lens of our members, not for the bottom line, but that's so we can give back to as many members as possible. And when that organizational mission and purpose aligns with your own mission, purpose, and integrity, there is no greater alignment in life. And so I found the credit union movement. I knew I was home the minute that I got here, and just very, very honored and so blessed to be working in such a movement with such a grounded purpose.
I think the person you are, that aligns so well with the mission, right? I mean, really need good people in the movement. Otherwise, this is not working for the big commercial banks. It's a very different place altogether, and we need people who have had good hearts, for the lack of better words, right?
Yes.
Now, obviously, I want to deep dive a bit on talk about a bit on passion of helping kids, because the time when I heard about this, I mean, heard this part of you, I was fascinated because people also don't get me. I mean, I've exactly same plans that what you want to do, right? So, do you want to talk about your passion for helping kids for their welfare?
Yes, so it is absolutely a passion of mine through adoption, through other kids, through some of the mentorship programs, through a lot of the programs that we work with, Boys and Girls Clubs, and just that ability to be able to touch a life and be able to say, we are your community. You have your family and your community, but you have this larger credit union community that cares about you, cares about financial literacy in schools, cares about you. I think that's so important as we teach kids and we have it's such an honor. It is, we are a part of their journey. And part of what is so important to me is that we are raising them to be good humans. I say that to my daughter all the time. I would like you, I would love you, you are my daughter, but I would like you as a person, as a human, even if I wasn't your mama. And so I think as we do that for our own kids, for our kids in our neighborhood, for our kids in our communities, how do we pay that forward to say, I want to be a part of your journey. I want to open up some doors for you. I want to open up doors that you may not even know are there so that we can raise great community citizens, great global citizens to go out and change the world. They're our future. They're going to go out and they are absolutely going to change our world. And to be even a small part of that, you're absolutely right. That is definitely a passion of mine and certainly such a blessing.
Definitely. I mean, I also believe in something that good people face a lot of challenges in life. I mean, for me, nothing happens without facing challenges in the first or second go. So anything good. So now it has come like by natural to me. Whenever something happens very smoothly, I'm like, okay, this won't last for sure because there was no challenge to start with, right? It has happened every single time. So talking about challenges, right? I mean, it's very weird that we also celebrate failures and challenges in the same podcast where we talk about successes, right? So do you want to talk about, Karen, what are the challenges that you faced as an individual, as a women leader, as a good human being, right, in your life, and how do you overcome challenges?
Absolutely. So thank you for the question. So absolutely, no question. I am very much known as kind of a rainbows and unicorn person. However, I absolutely make sure that as a leader, there are challenges. There are things, and when I talk to my teams and I set those visions, I'll share if we're not experiencing some challenges and some failures, we're not doing enough. If every single thing that we are striving for, we knock it out of the park and it's a 1,000% ROI in return, we're not doing enough. There should be those moments. So challenges as a women leader in particular, as a woman leader, some of the challenges are competing priorities and so much work to be done. And how do you prioritize? What do you do first? And so you have to make sure that you've got that strategy. I know my team hears it all the time. I am fascinated with sustainable infrastructure, and that comes from data and data governance and strategy and artificial intelligence and technology is building sustainable infrastructure so that as we move forward, when we do have those failures, those challenges, we can celebrate them, learn from them, but that we also are building something sustainable for the future. I think prioritization in my own life. So there has certainly been times when let's talk about just me personally, early on, where I want to be not only the best female women executive that I can be, but I want to be the best mama I can be as well. And so those competing priorities, and I want to be a good sister, I want to be a good daughter. So those priorities where you're trying to say, all right, where there's only so many hours in the day, trust me, I've been looking for that 27th hour for years. I feel like if we could just get from 24 to 27, I feel like I could get it all done. But it's constantly reevaluating. One of the things which will tie back to our earlier discussion is I keep the first photo of my daughter in the orphanage in my purse. And so I carry that very first moment where the caption said, "Is this your daughter?" Now at this point, I was living in Germany at the time. They don't know me. I don't know. We're working through an adoption agency. But the caption says, "Is this your daughter?" I carry that in my purse, and so that I never forget my priorities. And if I feel that I am misaligning on my priorities, I go back to that. I then look from there and I look for my teams and the people that are depending on me to make sure that we can continue as a credit union to do the great work that we are charged with in our community, making sure that we are running an effective balance sheet so that we can give more and more back to our membership. And then I look to our employees that are counting on all of us as leaders to make sure we're providing not just a job, but a career and a fulfilling career where they can make it and grow on their journey. So I go first to my priority of her, and then I look immediately to say, what does my priorities look like to my team, to the credit union, to what we are building, and to what we're doing? So I don't get it right all the time, I can promise you. There are many moments where I am on my evening run where I am going back through and saying, okay, I didn't do that as great as I could have, or I wish I could have done that better. I try very hard to give my same grace to myself, where I say, if we're not failing some of the time and learning from it, we're not doing enough. It's harder to give myself grace than it is for giving others grace, but I do try to go back to that where I can.
I think that's being too hard on yourself, right? At times you should
There are times.
just things let go. I mean, just before the podcast, I had a not a fight, an argument with someone. I was planning that should I respond to that mail, and but now I'm just calm. I mean, while talking to you, I mean, I again felt that was I too hard on myself? Was it worth that? But it's not worth that, right? That's the most important thing. So I think you should do that same thing, Karen. You take it too hard. You're right.
I will try to do better, I promise.
I'm sure. Now back to work, right? Very quickly. So I know that you're the chief retail officer of LMCU, leading Florida. But what exactly is your role right now? What are the different things that you do?
So my role is to help more people in Florida
Mhm.
achieve their dreams for a lifetime. And that becomes, and we don't even say financial dreams, we say dreams
Dreams.
because it affects everything, right? So as we are
Yeah.
helping, so as I set the strategy for our retail branches and all of the things we do to serve our members, which is trying to make sure that we are putting them into vehicles that they can afford, keeping that interest rate lower. Mortgages, we did 8,000 mortgages where we are trying to say home ownership to be able to provide for your family with that home and what that does for a family, not a house. I'm not interested in doing mortgages for a house at all. I'm interested in doing mortgages for homes. And so building out what that looks like for our business members, for our commercial members. One of our strengths, several of our strengths, is really in helping businesses grow and commercial businesses grow, to say, how can we be that partner through treasury services, through loans, through deposit services? Because that's vital in this community. I live in Tampa. I live, work, and worship here, so I'm the true definition of our member. This is my community that I have been trying to get to Tampa my entire life and to the
Yeah.
surrounding areas in Florida. Is how do we help businesses that are the lifeblood of our communities grow and thrive? How do we help our schools? How do we be that partner in our schools so that our teachers, our educators can do what they are trying to do, which is to inspire our young people to be that best version of themselves? And so part of my small role in all of that, but is to lead Florida in saying our strategy is to change people's lives, both our current members, our prospective members, and for our team members. And so it's as simple and as
That's
complex
wonderful.
as that. So,
Yeah, and I think this is one of the reasons because of which I came to the ecosystem 3 years back, right? Because your vision or aim or plan is not to grow the balance sheet, but to help people genuinely achieve dreams, right? That's what I think makes us different than the rest of the ecosystem. And I'm so fascinated about it.
yes.
That's good to hear from a leader like you. I mean, again, talking about the same mission and vision. Now, shifting gears a bit on your other passion of life, right? Helping kids succeed. So, I mean, I have a vision, like, we talked about, gifting kids dolls, then maybe, helping them in education. But what is your personal vision for helping kids? I mean, what do you want to do going forward?
So going forward, it's a lot of the financial literacy and a lot of the programs that we are involved with Boys and Girls Clubs and mentorship programs. I look at kids very, very broadly. So one of the things that I am fascinated with and absolutely passionate about is artificial intelligence and technology. And I'm passionate about it and fascinated with it. I'm obsessed with it for three reasons. The first one is what it can do in a safe and secure environment for financial institution, for credit union environments to build capacity. I want my team members to be able to have those life-changing conversations, to be able to spend their time to say, I'm your financial coach. I am here. I'm going to spend as much time because we're building a relationship. We're not doing a transaction. We are building a relationship, whether that's personal, whether that's business, commercial. So that's the first and foremost. And part of technology's job is so that we can have that capacity. So my folks and credit unions across the country can do what they do best, change members' lives. They have to have capacity in order to do that. The second piece is that extension of kids as they grow up in our workforce. So as I have team members that are coming in right now, no one wants to take data out of one system and put it into another. That's not filling, it doesn't fill your cup. It is not something that long term, there is great value in that job. That is an incredible job.
Yeah.
But where I see that going is if we can have technology do that job, and make sure that we can train and have the programs in place so that that person's job then becomes, you don't need to take this data out. I want you to be really good at using that data, the analytics of that data. How do you support as we are trying to grow? How do you have the capacity for that conversation? The third, that as leaders, we all know, and one of the frequent topics of conversation is what jobs will be replaced, not in credit unions, not in financial, but in all industries. And I absolutely take that responsibility extremely to heart. I think it's here. I think it's on the shoulders of every single leader, is to go out 3 years in the future, 2 years in the future, identify which jobs that will be served by technology.
Yeah.
And the reason that you would do that is so then you can then design
Yeah.
training programs for the next wave of emerging careers. So you can take your folks that are in that job, put them on a 2-year journey and say, I'm going to be your partner. We're going to put you in classes. We are going to bring you along on that journey. So what a glorious thing 2 years from now, if I can say technology is now going to perform 98% of what your role was. But as you've come with us on this journey, you are now going to be in this new role, prompt writer, whatever it happens to be, prompt writer, or all these emerging ones that aren't even job descriptions that are in financial services currently. And here's the good part. As we're being good stewards for our members, and as we are being good stewards for kids, our workforce as a whole, if I can then say, and your salary is also going to increase because you have increased your skills, the job is now increased, you're going to be able to provide for your family in a different way. If we can go all on that journey, from kids to workforce to every role in the credit union, I fully believe that that is the responsibility of every leader. I certainly feel it in credit union and financial services, but I think it's on the shoulders of every leader in every company across the country.
Yeah, that's like very well summarized your point of view about this. But this is fantastic, Karen. I want to be respectful of your time. I want to just we're almost at the end of the episode. I want to ask you one overarching question. This is outside our lives, but more for the movement, the credit union movement, right? Now, obviously, this year is, I would say, comparatively a bit better than last year, but not obviously nowhere close to the rates that we are imagining, right? It'll still take time. Net interest margin is still squeezed at the end of the day. It's not amazing. So, how does 2025 look like for the credit union movement, keeping in consideration that consolidations will happen, rates will be high, deposits will again be scarce, but lending might be better, right? I'm just throwing 3 4 ideas out there. So thinking about all of these parameters which you can't control, but how do you think this year looks like for the movement?
So I think for the movement, I am extremely optimistic. So are there challenges, and still rates are very high, and credit, and looking at the macro and microeconomics, not just for Tampa, but for the entire country. Here's what I've always said though, is credit unions are here no matter the times, no matter the interest rate environment, no matter the macroeconomics, no matter the microeconomics. Our job is to make sure that we can ebb and flow with those times to say, how do we get innovative? How do we get creative? How do we use economy of scale? How do we match with the right partners to make sure that even in times when rates are high and credit restrictions or whatever it happens to be, that at the end of the day, again, we're here for our members. And so we are going to make sure that we are still lending. And so optimism, but smart optimism to make sure that we're making sure that we're doing everything from an infrastructure perspective so that we can still lend. We are still growing. And at the end of the day, we are still changing members' lives regardless of what the economic conditions are. I think it takes a lot of innovation. I think it takes a lot of strategy to say, again, another quote, what got you here won't get you there. And so going back to that quote to say, how do we do this differently? The mission won't change. Our dedication to changing lives will not change. And so if you know that, and that's the job to be done, and that's your outcome, then you just work backwards from there and say, all right, what are the paths that are going to get us there? So are there challenges and economic times as they change and as leaders and balance sheets and all of that, do we need to be cognizant? Absolutely. Manage those, but take it one step further. Say, all right, here's the outcome we're trying to achieve. How do we work with others to make sure that we're still achieving that outcome? It's, again, I'm a big quote person, but I think it's Emerson is, do not go where there is a path or where the path leads. Go where there is no path and leave a trail. And I think that's what every credit union leader tries to do each and every day to make sure, regardless of the economic conditions, that we never lose sight that it's our members' life we're trying to change. And holding that not only in our head, but holding that in our heart changes everything.
And this was wonderful, right? This conversation is so heartfelt. It's so genuine. One of the very few conversations that I've had in the last few months. So again, thank you for taking your time out to talk to us in this busy schedule of ours, fitting us today. So really appreciate it and thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.